What's going on, everyone? This is Tyler Dunn here with Jim Monis for another episode of the Go Long Podcast. This time in the flesh, Jim.
Man,
at Hamburg Brewing Company. What's happening?
our energy's back.
I didn't get your drink, by the way. I told you I was going to get a drink for you just now.
Oh, no, there's plenty of time for that. And there may have been drinks earlier, too, so it's okay. Always hydrated. We're always hydrated. But now to be back in our home field, yes. Hamburg Brewing, preseason is god-awful, but we have to talk about it.
Do we, though?
Well, let's just talk about what's going to happen in the NFL. Let's try not to talk about Trey Lance for MVP, Justin Fields as the runner-up for MVP.
Trey Lance is going to win it, and then Jameis Winston's going to be the runner-up.
Oh, you have been on it. I mean, you've been on Winston all year, so this could be. Now, how'd you feel about your boy Goff? Did he get enough reps?
Did you see that 18-play drive?
Hey,
that's my boy, just melting that clock, baby.
Coffee Campbell.
Love a good 18-play drive.
Coffee Campbell has people already a little nervous with his handling of clock management.
Yeah, biting some kneecaps.
But that's preseason football.
Definitely. Well, everybody get on into Hamburg. Drink your little bit lager now. That's the go-to beer
it's the
here.
Only one you need right now.
It's great. It's a fantastic lager. Goes down smooth. I'm drinking it right now. And
gets you ready for the Bills.
Gets you ready for that preseason Bills football.
Big game.
Big win, right? Out in Ford Field. They'll be talking about that one for ages.
They needed that.
They should have carried McDermott off the field like you did Jim Schwartz.
One of my least favorite memories that you'll ever see. You want to talk about making something about yourself when the players are the ones that go out there and just get the job done. And Schwartz was still wanted some credit for beating his old. That's
gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right, enough about us though.
We got a good guest.
A fantastic guest.
I like it.
Nick Underhill of New Orleans.Football is joining us right out of the chute. We've been looking at all the divisions, obviously, here on the podcast. So NFC South today. Nick does such a fantastic job covering the Saints.
That's my blood. That's where I really learned how to scout.
I know. I just want to sit here and really not say a word all podcast. I figured you guys could just share some Saints stories, but he's not here at Hamburg. We're on Zoom with Nick. But Nick, how in the hell are you? How's life down in New Orleans? And do you live near Bourbon Street? If so, how are you alive right now?
No, so I'm on the other side. I'm on Magazine Street, which is civilized, bourbon for people that live here. You got your bars and restaurants, but you aren't gonna go out and die. So that's a good place to be. But man, I'm just happy. You guys are bagging on preseason a little. I'm just actually happy to have games to go to where there's people watching them, and it's not like watching them in a silent sound studio. So that has been very nice so far.
It's true. I like it. Calling us out. I like it.
I feel bad now. I feel bad because I know there are some things that do get done in the preseason, but I'm just telling you, don't rush to judgment. That's all. Just let it play out. Let it play out.
But tell us a little about yourself first, Nick. I mean, for those who don't know, you covered the Saints for a long time, and then you covered the Patriots for a season or two at the Athletic, and then you went back to New Orleans and created your own platform, your own site. I mean, you did it before I did. I remember just trying to research as much as I could and just thought it was phenomenal what you've done, and you've really built up an empire down there covering Saints.
So, yeah, I started out covering the Patriots 2010 to 2014, came down here, covered the Saints. And then in 19, I got the opportunity to go up there, cover the Patriots again for the Athletic. And look, I mean, you know how it is in this business. You kind of feel like you got to climb the ladder, and covering the Patriots for the Athletic felt like you do that, then you get a national job. And I interviewed for a couple of national jobs when I was up there, and I'm going on these interviews and I'm I don't want to do this. This isn't what I want to do. I like to focus on one team, and just you start to see the business and people are getting laid off everywhere, and you kind of start to see how things work. And, I kind of had this realization that we're all kind of our own entities in a sense. And you're doing your marketing online and your Twitter. And, if you got a fan base and people care about what you got to say, I think the business has come to a point where everybody, look, I think the whole world's sort of if you're a musician and you got good music, you're going to put it out there. People are going to find it. And I don't think we're all that different. And I just felt like I needed to do something else. So I quit that job. I came down here. I don't come from money or anything. It was just kind of a belief in Saints fans and the relationships we had, and being away from them. The city was just kind of calling me this is my home now. I'm from Pennsylvania, but there's something about New Orleans that's just different than anywhere else in the world. That I just felt like I needed to be here. I left. I wanted to come back. And thankfully they were happy to have me back, and they weren't too mad at me for taking my year-long vacation. But I couldn't be happier. Like, it's just doing it for yourself, and I'm sure you feel this too. Just everything's a little bit more rewarding, and there's a direct correlation between what you do and what you get out of it. And instead of working 80 hours for somebody else, like, you can work 80 hours for yourself, and it feels like less because you're doing it for yourself, and there's that reward. So it's been an incredible going into year 2 doing it. Started it 2 weeks before a pandemic hit, which I don't know if I would have planned it that way, and I was pretty scared at first. But look, those first 48 hours, we were going to take out like a loan. Hey, we're going to live off this loan. The first 48 hours are like so good that we never had to do that. So just the reception from these people here has been just incredible. And look, their ratings for games or like their preseason ratings for games are higher than people's like regular season ratings for games. So like the appetite for football here is just different than anywhere else. So it's been lucky, fortunate, and honestly, I just feel blessed that people have embraced what we're doing down here.
That's I love it. I love it. I obviously couldn't agree with you more. I just feel like, if you're a fan of a team or even the league, like, you're gonna kind of subscribe a la carte. Kind of like you do, like anybody does when they're getting Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever. You just kind of pick and choose, and God, you just nailed it. Like, there is a different sense of just pride when it's your ass, like a pride, but also I'm sure you got the question a lot, like, oh my gosh, you're betting on yourself. It's such a risk. Like, it doesn't feel like a risk when you're the one doing it. Like, you want it to be on your ass. Like, I'd rather like succeed or fail completely on my own merit. Like, put it out there. If people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. That's that. I mean, that's the American dream. I'm sure you feel the same way. You're like, I wake up in the morning excited to put in X amount of hours. The craziness, the chaos, all of that, you kind of embrace it to the upteenth degree.
Yeah, look, I mean, you said it right there. Like, people always say, "Well, you bet on yourself. You have big ball." Like, I never even really thought about that. It was just like, this is what we're gonna do, and it's gonna work, and you just kind of believe in it, and you're gonna find a way. And it just, for me, it felt like something I had to do. At a certain point, this business just no longer made sense to me. And we're in the same age group. It's just kind of like, either you kind of got to figure it out, or you got to bet on somebody else getting you to retirement. And I don't know if anyone's going to figure that out. And if I'm not going to make it there, I'd rather not make it there because I didn't do something right. Like, it's just, I don't know. I mean, like, it's just you see everything falling apart around us, and at a certain point, like, you just got to stop scurrying for that lifeboat and build your own and try to find a way to get yourself to shore. And look, I'll make that bet, and if I don't get there, that's fine. But I'd rather try than have this thought in my head, like, hey, I wonder if I could have done this, and then never did it. And you just get to a point where you gotta figure it out, and that's where we were at with it. And it's been the right bet for us for sure.
I'm sure you saw things at the Athletic. I mean, not to go too far in the weeds here, but it's like at Bleach Report when you start seeing the lists and the cartoons and the emphasis on things that aren't words. It's like, okay, this is where this is going. I'm over here. I'm not stupid. Like
right.
I'm gonna continue long form myself. Like, it's I mean, it's no different anywhere. You start seeing those red flags and you do your own thing, and you're doing a phenomenal job. I encourage everybody. Orleans.Football. Subscribe, learn, read. Nick does such a great job. God, Nick, I want to talk about the business with you forever, but we should probably talk about the Saints.
Well, I love how, Nick, you were saying, from PA, now you're down in New Orleans, covering the Saints. I'm from PA. I was fortunate. Like you said, you feel fortunate, lucky. I felt the same way to be a part of the Saints, from 2005 until 13. Those years were just incredible to see Katrina hit, to see the city come back. And we were such a part of it. When I say we, I was working for the Saints. I wasn't, but Breeze and Coach Payton and Reggie, and giving that city life back in 2006, and then making that Super Bowl run, and to be a part of that Super Bowl parade was just, I hear you talk about New Orleans, just takes me back to it's the most insane, the fan base. It's the most unique, I should say, maybe, fan base there is going, as far as where they live, the dome. You're walking the games. Everybody's outside in the city. Just it's the best. It's the most unique spot.
There's a lot of similarities, just growing up there and then being down here. I think between Bills fans and Saints fans, I think Bills fans are a little bit more crazy, but maybe the weather has something to do with turning that up a little bit. But just that passion and just how interlaced it is within every aspect of life. Like there's just every single thing here is just it's somehow intertwined with the Saints. There's Saints logos everywhere, and just the day-to-day just mood of the whole entire city, like literally just hinges on what the Saints do. And if they draft someone people don't like, the whole city, like it's just the way it affects everybody. And look, I know a lot of places, but it's just heightened here. It's so small. And look, you go out into the town and you see Tron Armstead, in the restaurant, like it's like family business down here, and it's just a little bit different than anywhere else.
So true. The guys, they love the city too, and they love the city welcomes them. They don't necessarily treat them like if they see them out, they might, but they don't. They let those guys do their thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like I always respected that when you see that, but it's so good to hear. I love hearing that. Anything from New Orleans, I know.
I tell you what, I mean, I think I've been in every stadium in the NFL by this point. The loudest, I don't even think it's close, is the Superdome. I mean, when that place is rocking, it's not artificial. Like there's some stadiums, the Metrodome with the Vikings. There are times you're thinking, they're pumping some noise in here. I mean, in the Superdome, my God, you couldn't hear yourself think. I mean, regular season games, that place is fucking crazy. Nuts.
Ask anybody that was at the NFC Championship when we beat Minnesota. Never, ever have I heard anything that loud. Like it hurt. That was the only time in my life where it hurt.
Really?
Yeah, it was that crazy.
And the fans are, to your point, like it is a different breed. I remember just looking around, like it's like that deep South Cajun voodoo kind of stuff going on. That it's a different character of fan.
But it does have to be a night game to really get the effect, because those 12 noon games,
everybody's hungover.
A little slow getting started. But
it's still live in there, but definitely the night ones are a little bit different. And those night games, like you'll see the water inside your water bottle just like moving off the sound. It is unbelievably loud in there for sure, no question about it.
So Nick, I mean, this is a team. We've talked about it a lot here with your history with New Orleans, Jim. But like they've been banging on the door, man, for a half decade now. Just excruciating playoff losses. I mean, the last 4 years, you can make the case that they could have won it all. I can't imagine what the mentality of the team is really like in that locker room to just come so close again and again and again and just have your hearts just crushed in new different ways. I mean, you're in there. What's it like? First of all, going through those losses.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the resolve of the team the last 4 years has been one of the most impressive things to me, because I think you could look after 17, the game against Minnesota when Marcus Williams missed that tackle. That could have broken that team. And that was a young team kind of built on, a lot of the foundational pieces were really young outside of Breeze. And the next year, you have the Los Angeles game, and that could have broke them, and they stayed a good team. Last year I thought, I think it was fairly obvious that Breeze was done like extremely early in that season. There really wasn't any question about it. And, they still managed to be right in there. And, without that Jared Cook fumble, they might have won that game.
Yeah. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Forgot about that play.
Yes.
Man, but those locker rooms after some of those games, it was, those are hard places to be. And those losses, you guys have been around the sport. Like there's losses, and then there's like different levels of losing. And 17 was brutal, but that game against the Rams, I've never been in an atmosphere like that. It was just shattered heartbreak. And that was the one where I honestly, I'm looking around at people and, everybody's crying, and you're looking at it like, are they going to be able to come back from this? And that's like one of those stupid things I feel like as sports writers, like maybe we play up a little bit, but that was like literally in the back of my mind that whole season, in the whole off season. But coming into it, they found a way through it. And this team is extremely mentally tough. Just this year, I think the question is, are they going to be deep enough? Quarterback's a huge issue. They got, it feels like everything in the world that could have went wrong for them has gone wrong in the last 6 weeks. Deontay Harris, DUI. Yeah. Lattimore had the offseason arrest, probably gets suspended at some point. David Onyemata, who's, probably arguably their best defensive lineman now, out 6 games for steroids. Mike Thomas, that saga's ongoing. It's just that there's just a lot that they got to figure out how to overcome, but they do have that resolve and that belief. And maybe some of these scars are going to help them kind of keep that in perspective and not get too down about it. But, surviving those first 6 weeks of the season, I think is going to be everything for this team.
Such a great point. I feel like we get so caught up into who's signing who's drafting who, but just that resolve has to mean so much. And just having to somehow summon the energy in April to work out for a new season after you lost that way. I mean, you've been around those kind of teams, Jim.
The reason I think the Saints can do what they do, as far as what you were talking about, being so mentally strong and getting through things, they don't have a lot of change with Mickey Loomis is there.
Mhm.
Sean Payton's still there. Same teams when I was, and Sean Payton has the same staff basically for the most part. The head Pete Carmichael, Joe Lombardi, those guys are all Dennis Allen. They're all back. Like some of those guys left. He brought them back, and they all Curtis CJ. He's back. You know, he went to Tulane. They're all back, and they have. That's why I think they're players. I think that's why they can get through stuff like that. But at this point, now you got the quarterback question, and that's the first time they've had that since 2005.
Yeah,
but they clearly upgraded, right, from Drew Brees to go to Jameis Winston.
You say that sarcastically, but what Brees was last year.
Yeah, I mean it.
Yeah, I mean, look, overall, obviously not, and I think there's things with losing Brees that they're going to find out that they've been doing for 15 years that they've taken for granted, and I'm sure there's little things popping up all over. Like they're changing how they do their protections and everything. Like Brees used to handle literally everything that happened. Now that stuff that's changing. So there's these little things, and I'm sure in the locker room and just different areas of the building, like having Brees in there and you pull them out and you're like, oh wow, we got to worry about this now. And I'm sure those things come up. But look, the on field last year where Brees was, and it feels sacrilegious to say this, but I actually think that like both of these guys to some degree can elevate. Now they didn't lose games last year because of Brees because he wasn't turning the ball over, and I'm sure Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, there's going to be times where they lose games because of their quarterback this year, and that hasn't happened in 15 years. But look, they're going to be able to throw the ball down the field. They couldn't throw the ball down the field, and they haven't been able to since really. So I draw out all their plays that they run. In 16, they were still doing stuff down the field, and they're attempting corner outs 15 yards and out routes 18 yards stepped. And in 16, like you saw Breeze's numbers just fall off a cliff on all those throws. By 17, these concepts that you're drawing out where there's go routes, they're just deep crossing routes now. And then by 18, they're coming in more. By 19, they're coming in more. So it was getting more and more condensed to where last year, if you measure how far the safeties were playing against them, the deepest safety was like 15 yards in 16. Last year, it was 13.2. And that 2 yards is a significant difference. If you're throwing a screen, your guy's starting six, the safety's got 6 yards or 6 feet up to crash, or Mike Thomas was running his slant and it's a little bit more suffocated. So I think if you can spread that out, and now Mike hits that slant, he's got two more yards of room to run. So I think all these little things that they can do will help them open up their offense, become a little bit more explosive, and just there'll be a little bit more room to breathe. And even their screens last year, like they had their lowest screen yardage, and you know how good this organization is on screens. It's been a hallmark of Peyton forever. It was the second worst mark they've had since the beginning of the Peyton era, yards per attempt on those screens. So just opening everything up a little bit, I think is going to make it easier. But, I'm sure there's going to be more mistakes and you'll get some interceptions. And, I think both of them will be, whoever they pick, I think will be fine. I think Jameis looks like he's rewired the way he thinks about football. Taysom, I think, has gotten better, but, he's got to get quicker with his decisions, be more decisive about when to tuck it and run and all this stuff. But it's going to be significantly different. But yeah, I mean, I think the quarterback play overall can be a little bit better.
Nick, do you think, this is a question I've been wondering about, will Coach Payton do it game by game, who starts possibly? Or do you think he wants a starter and then do you think ideally he wants Winston to be the guy and then Taysom to do his little packages? Because Taysom Hill, he's not going to beat anybody throwing the football. Let's just face it. I mean, it's limited as can be. He's really not natural throwing the ball. And what you even said scares me more, that his decision-making needs to get better. So now he has to be a better decision-maker and improve his throwing. I mean, I don't even know that's a gimmick guy to me. Jameis, hear me out on that.
I got you.
He seems more like a package guy to me, not a full-time guy. Where Jameis, you'd want him to be the full-time guy, but he's just never proven to be able to control his emotions and his throwing, his accuracy, and throwing to the other team. So I guess what I'm saying, do you think Coach Payton wants one, or you think he's cool with doing both?
I think he wants one, and I think you got to pick one so that they aren't out there playing tight. And Jameis can't be worried. If I try to fit this ball in there and I throw an interception, is that it? I don't think you can take that away from him, and you want him to be Jameis, just a more dialed back conservative version of Jameis. But if you put that pressure on him and he becomes too much, like in the last preseason game, he tries to throw the ball downfield, and I thought it was a good throw. It ended up being intercepted, maybe a tad underthrown, but little Jordan Humphrey ball hits him in the hands. He flips it up, it gets picked. You don't want Jameis worried that like if he does that and that play happens in the season, here comes Taysom off the sideline. To the point about Taysom being like a gimmick player, I think I actually disagree with that. I think he's gotten better as a passer every year he's been here. And the thing that I think people misconstrue about him is that he's not a running quarterback. He's really actually a pocket passer. And I think the running needs to be better. Like last year, it was designed runs, and he averaged, I don't know, 8 or 10 a game, but he's got to learn how to Josh Allen it, at times. And one read, two read, oops, nothing there. I'm going to go. Like, I think he needs to figure out how to do that. And if he did that, I think it would make him a more effective player if he stopped trying to be, Drew Brees. And I think that's the issue for him. But, his reads are slow and he gets through his progression slower, and it's gotten better this year, but I don't know if it's quite there yet. And look, if you're looking at everything and you take every practice and lay it out, I think that you can very easily say that Jameis has easily had the best 5 practices. The problem is that he has this exceptional practice and then it's okay. And then the next one's, and then it's back up here. And every time that he's had a chance to put his foot on Taysom's neck, it just hasn't quite happened yet. So I think that door's still a little bit open. I would pick Jameis at this point if I had to make a decision before this Jacksonville game. And, I thought he played better in the last game too. His 2-minute drill was exceptional. And he operated it, again, sacrilegious to say, but I thought it was Breeze-like, and just the efficiency. And he was going down the field and doing everything in rhythm. It looked outstanding. And if little Jordan Humphrey, 6'4", 225 pounds, can catch a back shoulder throw that's just a touch underthrown, I mean, the hype for Jameis right now would be out of this world. But
yeah,
he throws 12 passes. It's 8.3% of the game. So you have that one, a throw behind Nick Van Ette and a sack. Well, he got the ball up before the sack. So it's like there's 3 plays out of 12 where you're kind of like, so it's 25% of the performance. And, that's a bad way to evaluate it, but you're in this QB battle. Everything takes on way too much weight. But I think overall, Jameis has been better at this point. If he goes out, he'll be with the starters this week against Jacksonville. He has a good game. I think that he probably should take it. But look, Breeze got hurt last year, and the whole world thought there's no way they're going to play Taysom. It's going to be Jameis Winston. He came in first. He's more of a real quarterback. Jameis is a gimmick. Sean Payton picked Taysom. So Sean's feelings towards Taysom as a player is the one thing that's the wild card here. Like, everybody else looks at it one way, but if Sean sees something and Sean has that belief, that he'll roll with it. And he's not afraid to do something that people don't see coming.
Taysom's contract is a thing that tells you that they believe in him too. I mean, yeah, for them, and I give Coach Payton, to me, is just incredible what he does. I never thought he would want a guy like Jameis Winston. That is against everything he believes in, because his biggest thing is no turnovers. But every coach, really. And they played against Jameis. It's not like they were. It's not like they were unfamiliar to how he just can. Yeah, he can light you up, and he can lose you the game at the same time. Where that's going to be the biggest thing. Jameis can gain the trust of Coach Payton to open that playbook and trust you in the red zone, especially. Boom. I think Winston carries the team this year as far as that's how I see it. But
where's that relationship really at then? I mean, from the first time you saw Jameis in practice post 33-30, working with Sean, to this training camp when they've had all season, another off season, this training camp. Do you think he has really rewired kind of his brain to avoid some of those dumb mistakes that he made in Tampa Bay? I mean, he thinks that he has, his trainer thinks he has, but you're seeing him out there working with Peyton day in and day out.
Yeah, so I would say there's maybe been 2 bad decisions the whole camp. And yeah, and look, there was one moment where I was like, all right, this just truly illustrative. I thought of where he was at and what he was thinking. They were going through a red zone period, and it was one of those days. He had a great practice the day before, and it was one of those days where he could have buried Taysom, and he gets down to the 5-yard line. It's right after he hits his throw on the move. It was like a Mahomes-esque throw. Like, he's rolling to the other side of the field, hits a pass on the sideline. Next play, he scrambles down to the 5. It's 2-minute drill, and there's 8 seconds on the clock, and he gets the ball. And it's a little congested in the end zone, but you see like a couple spots where he can go with the ball and it's ticking. He's waiting 3 seconds. He just throws the ball through the uprights. And I think the other version of Jameis would have tried to squeeze a pass in there, did a little hero ball. But he said, you know what? Like, I'm going to eat it. We'll get the field goal. And, he talks about trying to be more decision based than results oriented. And I think that was a good example of it. And then, this last game too, he took a sack in a situation where there was maybe a tight window to get the ball out, but he just said, you know what, defense is playing good, going to take the sack. So I think the early signs are generally good. And, I don't know. We'll see it when it's real live action. But look, in this last game, it was the first real game action. Didn't see anything crazy. So, I want to believe him. Everything he says makes me believe what he's saying. Like his words in his message about everything, how he's looking at the game, what he's learned in his approach. I mean, it's perfect. And we'll see though with those decisions. But look, I think it's a little unfair to even judge him as like a 30 interception guy, because that's kind of an outlier season. Maybe, 2017, 20 interceptions, 17. That's kind of who he was through his whole career. But I don't think it's this thing where it's like this guy's capable of throwing 30 interceptions every single season. Peyton won't put him in those situations anyhow. I mean, they'll protect the ball and be smart about where they take their shots. And if it started getting crazy, like he just wouldn't be on the field. But I don't think that's going to be a thing. I mean, I think 17, 18 interceptions is probably what feels about right for him.
I think you need to pay attention. Yeah, I agree. 30 is like, you almost have to. I mean, that's hard to do.
Yeah, you got to throw that out. I mean,
I agree. You always throw the worst thing out, throw the best thing out maybe. But it's when the interceptions occur. It's when is he making the right decision? Is he going to the right guys on third down? Is he not throwing interceptions in the red zone? That's what you really have to pay attention to with Winston.
I love that point that Otis Leverett made, that Bruce Arians' offense doesn't have many outs. Like it is, you're going for the home run, you're throwing it down the field. And Carson Palmer's been pretty honest about that too. In Arizona, Carson Palmer's first year was pretty ugly. He threw a lot of picks, made a lot of mistakes, because it's almost like an all or nothing type of deal. And, granted, they were able to find a mix with Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady probably had a lot of say in kind of tweaking the scheme, tweaking the offense. But with Jameis Winston, it was just, you didn't have many outs, you didn't have many checkdowns. And Sean Payton, as he said, Otis said, there's tons of checkdowns. Like you always have ways out of situations, and Alvin Kamara is maybe the best, if not one of the best playmakers in the league. So,
but Peyton Manning struggled in that offense his first year. Ben Roth, like everybody, like there's legends that have struggled in that offense their first year. And look, for a guy that's overly aggressive, and I remember watching Hard Knocks, like the whole theme of that season when Cutter was the coach was that like he was trying to dial Jameis back and kind of get him to make different decisions and that. Now you put him with the guy that's telling him to do more of these things that were to his own peril. I just think it was probably the worst marriage of coach and player that you can imagine. And then,
is this a good marriage then? What do you think about this marriage?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the right spot for him. It's all the reasons you just said. I think that there's always a safe throw. The reads, the way they set them up, that there's just a lot of 3-level stuff. So if Jameis wants to look at that deep ball and it's not there, that there's an easy check down every single time. And he's been checking down like to the point where Peyton makes jokes about, oh, Jameis checked down, so you guys are going to write a story about it today. And it's just, I feel like he's playing really smart. And look, some of that the conservative nature of his approach in practice, I believe, is because the wide receivers here, they're the two best ones are hurt, and the other guys aren't separation monsters. And I think that sometimes you do have to take that safe throw. But, he is getting down the field, and when he's doing it, it's smart. And like I said, I saw maybe 2 or 3 decisions in a training camp. 2 or 3 decisions is bad decisions. That's extremely, like Patrick Mahomes can throw 3 picks tomorrow and nobody's going to react to it. Right. There were days Breeze threw 3 or 4 in one practice, and it's just like that's fine. When you're in this situation with these 2 players, and the one guy has this stupid 30 interception thing hanging over his head in the decisions, you're going to look at everything and micro analyze it to a point where it's probably stupid to do, but that's kind of, how these things get covered. But I think he's passing the test.
You should be trying different throws and getting interceptions.
That's the thing. Yeah. But if you're Jameis Winston, you can't. And if you throw an interception in practice, it's crazy. Like, I think he's thrown 2 in camp. You tweet, oh, Jameis Jameis threw a pick, and like the reaction to it is just outrageous. And it's just like, yo, chill out. Like this guy doesn't need to be 2 times better than everybody else. Like he just needs to be good enough for them not to lose games. And if they get healthy, they get everyone back. I think they can win 9-10 games. That might be insane to say. I mean, they got to get through those first 6. If you're at 3-3, I think they got a chance to do that. But it's just hanging in there till Deontay Harris is back, Mike Thomas, David Onyemata, and everybody else.
I would love to see the Saints hit that 10-win, 11-win, make the playoffs, and Coach Payton, it would just hands down solidify what he is. Like as far as you get to the playoffs with these, I'm not saying that they're bad quarterbacks, but you know you're not counting on them. They don't have a track record of saying
if he fixes Jameis Winston, I mean, just
he's going
to Canton, right? Like Jameis Winston is a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, no, he's coach of the year for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And that Bruce Arians stuff is funny because there is a point to that because we talk about on this podcast all the time, Nick. Tom Brady threw 3 picks in the second half.
Aaron Rodgers got a field goal off of those 3 picks.
And Aaron Rodgers does nothing with it. You can't win games throwing 3 picks and a half. It doesn't happen. Like, how do they even win that game with Brady playing like that? And we sit there and we still forget that Tampa struggled early in that season last year. Didn't the Saints just destroy them one game?
Yeah, I think they beat them 34-3 in one game. The first game was 34-23, and then it was like 34-3. So, yeah, it was insane. Like
insane.
Yeah,
so I'm with you on that.
They shouldn't have won that third game. I mean, Deontay Harris had him in the red zone twice. Brees couldn't do anything. I mean, it was just amazing. It just all their limitations met up to, and still Tampa didn't. The game was closer than I think people think it was. I mean, it was that fumble really changed that whole game.
No doubt.
And he's not
Tampa won all those
anymore.
playoff games by narrow margins.
Yeah, I know.
Michael Thomas. I mean, what the hell's going on there? It seems like they're going to sing Kumbaya, right? I mean, he's not going to play for a while because of the surgery. He's on the PUP list, all of that. But I don't know. I mean, Charles Robinson, maybe you've even had reports yourself. It seems like Sean Payton and Michael Thomas are kind of talking this through a little bit.
Yeah, he was at the game this week. He was on the sidelines. He's doing his rehab in Philadelphia. So he came down to Baltimore, watched the game, was on the sidelines. I think that was really important. Just look, a lot happened there. I mean, season ends and Mike goes and sees a doctor. They tell him, okay, you can try to do rehab. He tries to do rehab. He's supposed to go back and see the surgeon again to get a checkup. Hey, how's it going? 6 weeks out. Let's look at the ankle, take some scans, see where it's at, get surgery. Mike never goes back to that appointment. They're trying to call. Jeff Duncan reported that they tried to call him like 3 times. They couldn't get through to him. And then the way I heard it is nobody knows what's going on. Mini camp comes. It's the first time they can mandate him to come back. He comes in, team doctors get a look at it and say, yo, what the hell? Like, you got to go get this fixed. He goes and gets it fixed. But I mean, by then you've missed that point where it's like, if you get it operated on, you're ready by the start of the season. So obviously everybody's frustrated with him. And then last year too, there was a situation, the fight with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson that led to him get suspended. I mean, that wasn't even a fight. Like, there are practice situations boiling over. They're jawing back and forth. Mike's getting angrier and angrier. And then after a play, he walks across the field and sucker punches him. And, he gets suspended and he's cussing at the coaching staff. So I think it was just, a lot of things kind of boiled up in the one thing. And, the common denominator here is Mike isn't healthy through any of it. So he's probably frustrated because he isn't playing well. And look, this is a guy that'll start fights because Devontae Parker says, someone says Devontae Parker's a better wide receiver than him on Instagram. And, I think his identity is really tied up in the being, the best. And I don't think this is a situation where it was Scottie Pippen-esque and I'm going to rehab on their time. I just think that he probably believed his ankle was getting better. It wasn't. And then by the time he found out, well, it's too late. And, I think he's someone that probably has, trust issues and is a little bit skeptical, and he interacts with people kind of on that level. And maybe he just didn't trust the doctor's advice. I don't know. I'd love to talk to Mike about it. He's extremely hard to reach. I don't think he's someone that enjoys doing media, not in a malicious way. I just think that it's just not something that feels good to him. So he's not the most talkative person. But I don't know if that Kumbaya moment's going to come, but they just got to coexist. And I think you get Mike on the field, they're winning games, Mike's getting his yards, everything's rolling. I think a lot of this stuff melts away and it becomes a manageable situation. Healing it at this point, getting Mike on those sidelines, like I said, I think is huge because you just got to talk, and Mike's got to, just explaining to his teammates maybe what happened because Jameis, again, going back to his credit, he's got Mike's back. I believe he's got Mike's back. He says he talks to him frequently. But if you're Jameis Winston and you come to the Saints and this is your last chance maybe to change the narrative, Mike Thomas is a big part of that. So I mean, I just think people seeing Mike's perspective on this thing is important. So having him around the team, I think, starts with that healing. Peyton, someone that can, and look, this, you cross him there can be, a lot of people don't come back from that. Mike seems to be coming back from that. So just those two talking and having those two strong personalities kind of melting some of that ice is important. So I think they'll get through this season. If it's a good season, Mike gets his yards, I think you're okay for next season. But if it's rocky, you never know how that's going to go.
So well said. I mean, gosh, I'd love to talk to him again. I just pulled it up. We sat down. It was 2018. It feels like light years ago, but he was just on the come up. Like you could tell, but Michael Thomas, I don't think he wanted to be famous. He wanted the notoriety, but he's looking at his numbers, the fact that he almost catches everything. I guess his target rate his catch rate is unbelievable. And he just felt like he wasn't getting that just due, whether it's contract, whether it's national spotlight. And then he had an amazing season. He got the contract, he got the spotlight. And meanwhile, his quarterback is kind of declining too. And all the injuries on top of that. So you're right. I think you put it so well. It's not like we want to make it about one thing, don't we? Like this is the reason for this problem, and it's probably this combination of factors.
Like kind of build up.
And what are the other options for him or the Saints? Obviously want him to play. They need him, and he's not going anywhere. So they're kind of best together here whenever he's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely, look, this is a team that wants to still win. They operated all offseason. They could have started selling off parts to trim down that $100 million. They did everything they could to keep the core together. And if you go to their over the cap page and look at it, I mean, there's literally not a single contract left that they can restructure because they did everything because they believe they can still be a good team this season. Mike's obviously a massive part of that. He's one of the best, I don't know, 5 receivers in the NFL. And, they gave him all that money to help with that. Well, to help with the Breeze aging process and make it graceful and, be the guy that can be open 7 yards away and catch every single ball and let this quarterback be, a classy game manager. If we're going to be real about it, the last 4 years, very high level. But, post that, it was to help whoever was the next quarterback, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, whoever. Mike Thomas is a huge, pressure valve, and you got him out there. That's someone you can just, everything goes wrong, he's still going to get open. They don't really have that player right now. And, I think that is a little bit problematic. So yeah, they want Mike on the field. That they paid him to be here. I think up until this thing last year, I think everybody on that team would agree that he was a really good teammate. And look, that's just probably an outlier situation. I'm sure those feelings still existed. This offseason thing, kind of makes it a little rocky. You got to mend those fences. But Mike gets out there and he produces the way he does. I'm sure everybody forgives him and it's all good. But yeah, I mean, if Alvin is piece 1, Mike's piece 2 of this offense, and you got both those guys, that makes life a lot easier for your quarterback. So, they got to get him back out there. They got to get him playing. And there's just really no way to, you trade him as $32 million in dead money. And the Saints have ate those costs before, Jimmy Graham, Junior Gillette, but that's not something you want to do lightly. If you can have a conversation and fix it, save that $32 million to have one of the 5 best receivers in the league on your team, you got to find a way to figure that out.
Their defense has to give them belief that we're going to be in every game, right? Their defense is just, they're together. They know how to, just to keep them in every game. They get turnovers. They're just tough. So if you have a great running back, and I don't use that word all the time, but he is a great running back that can do everything. Like you said, he is by far number 1. So now Coach Payton's looking at this as, we have a hell of an offensive line. We can protect these quarterbacks. So I can get these guys right, Hill and Winston. I just need to make sure we have our full, we got to have Michael Thomas to give these guys a chance. I would think that's the thinking, of course. And I guarantee you, Coach Payton probably has a lot of things. He's probably biting his lip a little bit on Michael Thomas as far as whatever happened. And you seem, I mean, you know all more than we know, but you're right. Coach Payton does, I mean, you cross him a little bit. I saw it right when he took the job that first year, and we're looking around. He's getting rid of Joe Horn and Dante Stallworth and Aaron Brooks, which whatever you want to say about them, I mean, at the time, and we're like, cool, we like this, okay. I mean, he wasn't messing around. We didn't skip a beat, and that gave everybody right away. He just earned his credit. So Coach Payton, new head coach, does that. Yeah. So here he is, however many years later, and he's gonna not give in to Michael Thomas. It just tells you like, hey, we do need you. Like, we need you.
Exactly. Is that good?
He spoke out a little bit on him too. I mean, right after he said, "Hey, this shouldn't happen," and someone followed up, and he's like, "I'm just gonna leave it there." Like it was very, very clear that he was not happy about anything that went on. And look, I mean, then the stories start coming out. Like it was just something where they had to talk, and they talked, and he said it wasn't a big kumbaya moment. Maybe the big kumbaya moment comes at some point, but you don't need the big kumbaya moment. And I think that's one of the misperceptions about people about these teams. Like it's like any workplace. Like there's people that like each other, people that don't, people that like the boss, people that don't like the boss, people the boss doesn't like. Just as long as none of that is cancerous or malicious, and everybody can still operate within the same rooms, and you don't need to be singing kumbaya. You just gotta not be MFing each other and all this stuff, and then you're good to go.
That's a tricky band. I mean, we talk about Green Bay all the time on this podcast. They're trying to do the same thing right now.
Yeah.
With Brian Gutekunst and Aaron Rodgers, but
it's a job.
That's who they play week one
it's
too.
It's a job, and at the end of the day, Nick made a great point. You don't like everybody you work with all the time, but it's a job. So professional is the word too, right?
Right.
And very professional. Like let's get on the field, let's win.
We got to whip around the division real quick. I mean, this division better than anyone. I mean, anything stand out to you? I mean, I guess Tampa Bay is obviously the defending champions. They'll be the favorites in the division. Are they the favorites to you? Atlanta, Carolina, anything there that you think might surprise?
I think it's still Tampa's, and like you guys said, like they got better as the season went on. I thought the playoffs were a little bit unimpressive, but look, you find ways to win. Those games are tough, and they got it done. So I think they're still the team to beat. The other two, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Atlanta post Julio, they got Kyle Pitts. They're probably still going to be explosive in their own right. Their defense, I think, still needs some work. And I don't know if Carolina is going to be better or worse with Bradford. I think that's still very much up in the air. I got questions about, I think Joe Brady did an okay job. I mean, I thought there were, instances last year when you watch Carolina games where it kind of looked like a young staff trying to figure out how to survive in the NFL. And I think if they figure out some of that stuff, they could be a little bit better. But I think it's Tampa, and then behind that, I believe it's like wide open. Honestly, I mean, if the Saints figure out the quarterback and how to survive those games, I'd probably put them at 2. But if anything goes wrong for this team, the depth is gone. The last few years, the hallmark of this team was anybody could go out, and they had a capable player right behind them. That's not the case anymore. So everything has to go right for the Saints, I think, to be in that mix at number 2. And then if not, one of these other teams, I think, could catch them.
I like Carolina a little bit this year, and I agree, Nick. It'll be interesting to see the coach. I mean, that's their first year. A lot of those guys, in the NFL like that, to have those types of roles. Darnold is intriguing to me. He has some Jameis Winston like similarities as far as the guy has talent. Everybody can see it. It's just how do you stop the crazy decision making or the crazy turnovers and crazy weird spots for Darnold? But Christian McCaffrey, that receiving core, that defense is pretty good. There's some their front seven's pretty solid, and I just feel like that's a team nobody really talks about. And I know how coaches are; they love when nobody's talking about you. That means you're just showing up, you're working, you're trying to earn. But Darnold's obviously the key. But I do think if they get the good Darnold, which it's been hard to find the good Darnold. It was a mess, and what the Jets did with him was just embarrassing. You couldn't handle a rookie quarterback worse than what they did. The Bills couldn't have handled Josh Allen better. The Jets were so pathetic with Darnold. I'm hoping that Rule and those guys and Brady have a way to get Darnold on track. And if he is, I think that Carolina team is going to sneak up with some people.
You probably have some flashbacks too. I mean, that final year with the Bills. I mean, you guys were sitting there at Temple with the Pagulas, right? And
Yep.
talking about not the draft class coming up with
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes
Darnold
and
came up.
Trubisky and
Yep.
Watson, but the one after that
Yep.
with Darnold.
Yeah,
and
if
Josh
we're not
Allen
if we're not going to
and
draft
Wilson.
Trubisky or Mahomes or Deshaun, are we prepared next year to take any of those guys? And we had started studying those guys, and Darnold was kind of at the time like it looked like the head of that class back then. But yes, Darnold always showed, but he did this at USC as well. I mean, he did the fumbles, he did the crazy interceptions. So. And to be honest, Jameis did a lot. All the stuff he did at Florida State, he did at Tampa.
Yeah.
We'll see if but a lot of these guys don't change too drastically, but I do think you can change guys' decision making a little bit. You hope so.
DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson,
And
They got a good team.
McCaffrey,
I mean, there's a lot around him there. Better play calling.
they have something. They're close. They're getting close.
Let's be real too. Getting away from Adam Gase has been really good for a lot of players. So
Man, don't get me started. I got to know Adam pretty well over the years because he Joe Vitz, his father-in-law, who used to be our assistant head coach in New Orleans. He used to sit with us at the Senior Bowl. You know how we all sit around. And Gase would come over and tell us Tebow stories. And
Is that right?
oh yeah, just what a disaster Tebow was, like decision making, and it had nothing to do with Tebow throwing the football. Gase was like, guys, he doesn't even sometimes know the offense. Like, he would tell us stuff like that, and we were just like, yeah, I scouted Tebow, and I knew all that. They told you that as a scout at Florida. Like, yeah, he's good with our system, but
isn't that kind of weird? I get it, even if he's 100% correct in everything he's saying. In that setting, to just go to other people and just bitch about one of your quarterbacks,
well,
it's kind of like a little blame game.
We may have egged him on, and he was in a small circle of people, so we may have egged him on over that. How did you guys play with Tebow quarterback? But he was complimentary to Tebow as well, but he also was like, yeah, guys, it was not easy. Like,
I really hope Tebow makes the team in Jacksonville just so Twitter ceases to exist.
Oh yeah.
That'd be great.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm
cheering for the same outcome. I just want to see people pissed off. Yeah.
I mean, Afghanistan is just burning to the ground, and more people are talking about Tim Tebow than like a terrorist organization.
He missed a block, man. He missed a block.
He did miss a block.
Yes.
It's so true. Much more important. Much more of a national security concern than what's happening overseas there. But
I just can't. This is the preseason. This is what happens.
Yeah.
If you would have told me 5 years ago that we would be on a podcast, which I don't even know if they existed 5 years ago, but they may have. And we're going to talk about Tebow at tight end with Urban Meyer at Jacksonville. I've been, what planet? What happened to the world? What happened? Like, I just need answers. This is incredible that this is even a. He's not fast. He's not very athletic. He's never played tight end. The blocking will never happen because that is one of the hardest things. Blocking tight end, if you haven't done it, it takes years. And you have to have length. Tebow doesn't have length. Like tight ends, you have to have length to block guys and get your hands on them. Tebow doesn't have length. He's a stocky bodybuilder. Like, so I'm just saying, he and Urban have something worked out. He makes a team. It's not going to be based on.
God, I hope he does.
I hope he does. Just because I do. I mean,
the reaction alone will be worth it.
Yeah, you got to root for Tebow.
So I got to ask. Pierre Thomas, he's in camp. Sean Payton cuts Antonio Pittman, right? What was the reaction to? Did you guys?
No, it was fine because Pierre was a guy that DeJuan Jones was our Midwest scout, who Terry Fontenot, who took over Atlanta as GM, brought DeJuan in, who was with Baltimore as a scout, brought DeJuan to Atlanta with him. But we all go way back. DeJuan did a great job of going after Pierre Thomas to get him after the draft. And we were like, really? Like, you couldn't. It was one of those guys that Pierre Thomas, small, slow, blah, blah, blah. No, what you couldn't stop. Knew the offense, did everything better than Reggie was doing as far as for the offensive lineman. Loved Pierre because he would hit the hole. He would go where the play was supposed to go, where Reggie was always dancing. Pittman was kind of really never, it was just a little miss on our part, I think. He never really jumped out to anybody that we thought he was going to be. But yes, that's why you got to respect Coach Payton for making tough decisions like that. Coach Payton, I scouted Jimmy Graham. I was the area scout for that. Sean Payton's the reason we have Jimmy Graham. trust me. I mean, I liked him. We all liked his, hey, we see all the talent. Coach Payton had a clear vision for him. And that's, stuff like that is why I always respect Coach Payton. He doesn't mess around. He makes the hard decisions and does it.
See, that's interesting to me, though, because he talks about that decision and, hey, if I would have went another direction, I would have lost the locker room. Last year, the decision to start Taysom over Jameis, like if it was a crazy decision and all the players thought it was insane then, like I feel like that same thought process would have came in. And I know Sean made the promise to Taysom, hey, if something happens, you'll get the first shot. But if it was obvious he didn't deserve it, I don't think it had to be close then, and it's still close now. And, I just find that thought process. And, I think it dates back to that. Like, it's just, he always makes that hard decision, regardless if it's popular or not. And I don't know. I mean, just last year to go that way was interesting.
We don't get them all right. I mean, we also drafted Rob Ninkovich in that we had we had a famous draft. It was the Reggie and Jairi Evans and Roman Harper draft. Ninkovich was in that, and Colston, Zach Street.
Yep.
And Ninkovich, who we gave up on a little early, but that was a hell of a pick too. That we don't.
You guys tried him at long snapper, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. You remember that? Yeah. It's something. It just never synced up. Like there was a head button going on, and I was an area scout, so I wasn't around the team all the time. I just remember like, man, what? Well, we really like this guy. I'm surprised, but it wasn't syncing up. But that's what he does. Moves on. He almost cut Marcus Colston in training camp.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Bad back, was dropping balls. Colston was never a speed guy.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're seeing that they were almost but they held on to him to training camp just because, hey, let's get him healthy. Let's see. And training camp, he started right away. He just looked better. And obviously the rest is history. But Coach Payton doesn't mess around.
But that was close. Like
Coach Payton tells us, hey, we could take a guy in the third round. If he doesn't look good in training camp, we'll cut him. And that is a golden rule. If you're a GM or a head coach, do it. Don't.
As a scout, though, there's got to be a little part of you like, man.
It's a gut punch.
He'll come around.
He'll come around. Yeah, it's a gut punch. It is. But hey, as a scout, you don't get bonuses for guys getting drafted from your area.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't get fired from guys getting cut. I mean, it is obviously we know it's not an exact science, but you just got to be right more than you are wrong.
But everybody's always on the same page when the guy's drafted, right?
Couldn't believe he was there.
Couldn't believe he was there. And best available player.
Yeah. They were trying to get Mahomes 1 year, and then Lattimore felt, well, we don't know what we would have done if they both would have been there. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
I love it. I would love to just be a fly on the wall in those rooms. I mean,
I do think Coach Payton was going to take Mahomes.
Oh yeah, no, they were.
I know
Breeze was in the draft room, and they told Breeze they were getting ready to take him.
Yeah, okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
So you can confirm it.
Yeah, no.
I'll go a step further then. Terry Fontenot, hey, we're pretty tight. He was calling me after it kind of got out that we went and worked everybody out. Terry's like, we're just, hey, every team calls whoever on the other team about a week before the draft. And you guys looking to trade, blah, blah, blah. And obviously everybody knew we may trade back or we were taking a QB. And the teams that wanted a QB were definitely trying to see what we were doing. Terry's like, we started the conversation tonight, and Terry's like, sweet, man, how were those workouts? How were those QBs? Like, anybody jump out? And I was like, yeah, they all look good. I mean, they're all good players. Just give them the standard answer. And Terry's like, oh man, I know it's gonna be cool to see where they go. I'm like, I got off the phone. I'm like, all right, Saints want one of these quarterbacks. I didn't know who, but
so he's trying to keep it vague, yet trying to get some information out of you.
And then it came out. Like I think it came out. I think Coach Payton talked about it.
Oh yeah, he's talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe him. I'm sure they want it.
There's got to be a lot of that though up to a draft with you scouts. Like just you guys all know each other, and you're all trying to get information from each other. And like, did you put out like misinformation to like your friend, like some of your best friends, like Terry Fontenot, like that?
It's when you're a scout, you're not the decision maker. So, when I was with the Bills talking to Terry, I was a decision maker. So I was kind of guarded. And as a scout, you're talking to other friends or scouts, and you'd be like, you won't believe this. Our head coach wanted this guy. I told him he stinks, all that. Or because scouts we're never wrong. And we never miss. But I do love that part of the whole scouting game, the draft part of it. Everybody's trying to fool everybody. Yeah. Because you can't believe he's there. Still couldn't believe he made it to us.
I can't believe we kept you this long.
Yeah, Nick,
man, thanks so much.
Fun,
Jeez.
You got me juiced up tonight talking about New Orleans. I got a little excited.
Got me
Nah, I
pumped
enjoyed
for
it.
Bourbon Street.
Bourbon Street. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You gotta
Magazine,
make
man.
your way
You're
out
too old.
there.
You're too old to be on bourbon, man. You got to
You're right.
magazine.
Oh.
Yeah, you
Bourbon's
got
a
to.
one-time, do it once and never go back to bourbon.
Yeah,
That's
you
my
got to. You
rule.
got to come uptown. You got to.
Yep,
Yeah.
You're right. Nick's right.
Keep it safe, man.
That's what we're gonna do. And well, we had like one final farewell, like bachelor party, like 5-6 years ago. At this point, like everybody was either about to get married or about to have kids, and it was just. You're right. We did it, and it's like we're never doing that again. It's over. Never again. It just smells like piss and regret. And
our ring
booze.
ceremony, when we had our Super Bowl ring ceremony in New Orleans, I believe it was in like June of that summer. I still don't know how I made it home back to South Carolina after that trip, how I had any money, how I had keys to a car. New Orleans things happen. Things just happen.
Oh yeah, they do.
But man, it's good. It's good when you can survive a 3-day weekend in New Orleans. You've done something.
Awesome. Well, Nick, hey, thanks so much,
Thanks,
man.
Nick.
New Orleans.Football. What's your Twitter handle?
At Nick_Underhill.
Perfect. All right, everybody follow Nick there.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much for just hanging out with us on a Monday night like this.
Yeah,
You
thanks
were
for having me.
amazing.
It was fun.
Thanks,
Great,
Nick.
man. Stay in touch. Let's do it again.
Yes, sir.